Quick question. What's your phone's IP address right now? Don't know? That's okay. Pull it up real quick. Go to Settings, Network, find that IP address. Got it? Now turn off your Wi-Fi. Wait like 5 seconds. Turn it back on. Check your IP address again. It changed, didn't it? That right there? That's address drift. And it is way more chaotic than you probably realize. Your IP address isn't this permanent thing that stays the same forever. It changes. It moves. It drifts. Sometimes predictably, sometimes randomly, and sometimes at the absolute worst possible moment. And this causes all kinds of fascinating problems and weird behaviors in networks. So let's talk about why your addresses won't just stay where you put them. Address drift is when network addresses change over time, either gradually or suddenly, and usually when you're not expecting it. You might think addresses are stable, right? Like you assign an address to a device and boom, done. That device owns that address forever. Nope, not even close. Most devices don't have permanent addresses. They have temporary addresses that are leased to them, and those leases expire, or they move between networks, or the network reconfigures itself, or someone accidentally clicks the wrong button. Your address can drift for a bunch of reasons. And the thing is, drift isn't necessarily bad. Sometimes it's by design, but it absolutely changes how networks behave, and it can completely wreck your day if you're not ready for it. So why do addresses change? Let's start with the most common reason: DHCP. DHCP is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. That's a mouthful. But basically, it's the system that automatically gives your device an IP address when you connect to a network. When you join your home Wi-Fi, your router's DHCP server looks at its pool of available addresses and goes, okay, you can have 192.168.1.9105. You can use that for 24 hours. That's a lease. Your device doesn't own that address. It's borrowing it. And when the lease expires, your device has to renew it, basically asking, hey, can I keep using this address? And usually the answer is yes. But sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the DHCP server goes, actually, I'm giving that address to someone else now. You get 192.168.1.47 instead. Boom. Your address just drifted. And this happens more than you think. Every time you disconnect and reconnect to Wi-Fi, your lease might change. Every time you restart your router, addresses get reassigned. Every time a device joins or leaves the network, the whole pool shuffles around. Your phone's address this morning? Probably not the same as right now. DHCP is the big one, but there are other ways addresses drift. Mobile devices are drift machines. Think about your phone. You're at home on Wi-Fi, you have one address, you leave. Your phone switches to cellular data, completely different address, probably not even in the same country's IP range. You get to work, connect to their Wi-Fi, new address. You go to a coffee shop, new address. Your phone's IP address is changing like 5 times a day. That's drift on steroids. Then there's network reconfiguration. Maybe your IT department decides to reorganize the network. Suddenly, entire buildings are on different subnets with different address ranges. Everyone's address just shifted, or equipment failures. A router dies, a backup router takes over, and suddenly, it's handing out addresses from a different pool. Drift. Or someone fat fingers a configuration and accidentally changes the DHC range. Whoops, everyone drifts. And here's a sneaky one. Dual stack networks, running both IPv4 and IPv6. Your device might be using an IPv4 address right now, but in 2 hours, it switches preference to IPv6. Different address, different protocol, same device. That's drift. Okay, so addresses change. So what? Why does this matter? Because a lot of things in networking assume addresses are stable, and when they're not, things break. Let's say you're playing an online game. Your game establishes a connection using your current IP address, but then your DHCP lease expires mid-game, and you get assigned a different address. Guess what happens? Your connection drops. The game server was talking to your old address. Now you're on a new address. The server doesn't know that's still you. Connection lost. Rage quit. Thanks, address drift. Or firewall rules. Maybe your company's firewall allows certain addresses to access certain servers. But if those addresses keep drifting, suddenly authorized devices can't connect because they have different addresses than the firewall expects. Remote access is a nightmare with drift. You're trying to VPN into your home network to access a file on your desktop, but your desktop's address changed since you left this morning. Now you can't find it. It's still there, just at a different address. And troubleshooting, forget about it. You're trying to track down a problem device. Someone tells you, yeah, it's at 192.168.155. You go looking for 192.168.1.55, and it's a completely different device now, because addresses drifted overnight. So how do we deal with drift? The most common solution is DNS, Domain Name System. Instead of remembering that your server is at 192.168.1.100, you give it a name like server.local, and DNS keeps track of whatever address that name currently points to. When the address drift, DNS updates, and everyone can still find your server by name. It's like how you don't need to know someone's exact GPS coordinates to find them. You just need their street address, and you trust that maps will figure out the coordinates. Another solution is DHCP reservations. You can tell your DHCP server, hey, always give this specific device this specific address. It's like having a permanent parking spot instead of taking whatever's available. That's called a static assignment. The address doesn't drift because it's nailed down. For really important stuff, servers, printers, network infrastructure, you usually configure static IPs. You manually assign an address and turn off DHCP completely. No drift possible. Some networks use short DHCP leases to encourage drift. Maybe leases only last an hour. This keeps the address pool fluid and available. Other networks use really long leases, like a week, to minimize drift and keep things stable. It's all about trade-offs. More drift means more flexibility, but less stability. Less drift means more stability, but less flexibility. Here's what's interesting about address drift. It reveals something fundamental about networking: the tension between permanence and flexibility. We want addresses to be stable identifiers. We want to say, this is my device, and have that mean something consistent. But we also want networks to be dynamic and adaptable. We want devices to come and go freely without manually managing everything. You can't have both perfectly. If you want stable addresses, you lose flexibility. If you want flexibility, you get drift. Most networks choose flexibility. They accept drift as the cost of having automatic address assignment. They deal with the instability by building systems on top that can handle it: DNS, service discovery, dynamic routing. But some networks, especially industrial or scientific networks where stability matters more than convenience, they nail everything down. Static addresses everywhere. No drift allowed. It's harder to manage, but it's predictable. So the next time your IP address changes, you'll know what happened. Your address drifted, your lease expired, or you switched networks, or something in the background shuffled the pool, and that's okay. That's how modern networks work. Addresses aren't permanent. They're temporary assignments that can and will change. The trick is building systems that expect drift. Systems that use names instead of addresses. Systems that can find things even when they move. Systems that treat addresses as transient identifiers rather than permanent ones. Because in networking, nothing really stays put. Everything drifts eventually. And the networks that work best are the ones that accept that and plan for it. Address drift. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Sort of. Mostly. Well, sometimes it's definitely a bug, but you get the idea.